Hello and welcome to this short video on writing a simple maths quiz in Python. And I hope this will be a nice challenge to get you to use some of your Python skills. And what we want to do in this challenge is we want to write a simple maths quiz that asks the user to add up two random numbers together and then checks to see if the user's got that right. And the quiz should have at least 10 simple addition questions like this. And while the user's answering these maths quiz questions, the program should be awarding points for every correct answer, adding up those points and displaying those points at the end of the quiz. So before we go on and plan this program, what I would like to do is first have a look at how Python can be used to generate some random numbers in this case. So to generate random numbers, what we can do is we can use a library in Python called the random library. And inside the random library there are different functions, and one of those functions is called randint, which is used to generate some random integers. And so we'll be using random integers in this quiz here. Okay, so let's go on over to REPL and see how we would code in some random numbers. Over here in REPL, we can start thinking about generating our random numbers in Python. So let's import the random library, and let's make a variable where we can store our random number, and of course we're going to call upon that random library, and inside the random library we are going to use the function randint. So this function returns a random integer between in the range a to b, including both endpoints. So significantly, if I chose 0, 10, that will include the number 0 up to including 10. So for our quiz questions, we're going to use numbers 1 to 10, including 10. And let's print this off, and let's see this working. And let's run. So here we go, we've got a random number 9. I want you to think about how you could generate two random numbers and how you could then show on the screen the question, which is to add those two numbers together and get the user to enter in their answer there. So think about that, pause the video and come back in a moment. Okay, so we've got num1, let's add here, so that's going to be num1, and let's make another variable, let's call this num2. And again, we're going to call upon randint. So again, we're going to use numbers 1 to 10. Okay, and now we need to print off the question. And here we are. So what is followed by num1 plus, and then num2, and then equal to. Okay, and so that will print off the question to the user, and we need then to use the input function, which will ask the user to enter their answer. Okay, so let's store this in user answer, so that's a variable, and let's call upon input function, and here we are. So I would keep that as it is, just that would be our input function there. So as it is, what will happen is the input function will ask the user to enter something into it. And I think you know by now that the input function will capture a string, okay? And we can't really do mathematics with strings, so what we need to do is we need to convert that string into an integer. So let's say int here, and this here will change what comes from the input into an integer, okay? Then we can do some mathematics with it, okay? So I want you to think about how you would use this now to check to see if it's correct. So pause the video and think, what could you do to check the answer from the user? Okay, so we can check the answer using selection, using an if statement, okay? Using if statements, we need two things to compare with. So we need to compare the user answer to the actual answer. So let's go ahead and actually calculate the answer. So the answer should be num1 plus num2. And let's do an if statement here. So if user answer is equal to the answer, so then we're going to print, and we're going to print correct, and we are going to do an else part here. So obviously if they're not the same, we're going to print wrong, and that's it. Okay, let's see this working. Let's go to run. So what is 4 plus 2? 6. Correct. Okay, let's just see if it works if we get it wrong. Okay, and let's say 15, and it says wrong. Okay, so now let's think about how we can make this into a proper quiz by doing 10 questions. So pause the video. Think about how you could do this for 10 questions. So if you were thinking that we could do some iteration, perhaps using a kind of loop, then you're correct. So let's use a for loop for this one. So we need to think about what code needs to be iterated, so to be repeated each time. And so we need to make sure we're careful about that iteration. So let's think, if I highlight what I need to iterate over, so let's see if I can do this one here. So if I press the tab key on my keyboard, I can indent that. And then if I go to the beginning here, and if I then go for x in range, and of course I want to go 10 times, and so let's see if I run this. So it says what is 1 plus 1, type in 2, again what is 1 plus 1. See if you can spot the mistake I've got here, the problem I've got here. Why is it asking me the same question again and again? Okay, so think about it, pause the video, have a look at the code. Why is it going over again and again? Okay, so if you thought that the reason was because when we generate the random number, it's not inside the loop, and so we're still using the same random number each time, then you're correct. So let's take this out and let's put it inside of our loop. Okay, and so each time when the loop starts, it will generate a random number and then print the question and get the user to input their answer, calculates the answer, compares their answer, prints correct or it prints wrong, then you are correct. So make sure that what you need to have inside the loop is inside the loop. Okay, so let's run that and see if I've corrected that. So, okay, good, and good, and let's get one wrong. Okay, so let's now see how we can add a variable to track the score. Okay, and again, we need to think about where in the code I need to add that variable and where I need to change the variable. So pause the video and see where you might need to add that code there. Okay, so if you thought you need to add the variable at the beginning, so let's cast that variable. So let's say score equals 0. So again, at the beginning, our score starts at 0, and then what we need to do, of course, where we check our answer here and we say it's correct, we can say score equals score plus 1. Okay, so that will add then 1 to the score. Okay, we can also we can do a bit of shorthand here, and we can say here you go. So score plus equals 1. What that will do is simply take the value that's stored in score and it will add 1 to it, and then it will store that in the variable score there. So that's a shorthand for what that was. Okay, so then let's try and run this again and see how it works. So here we are. So we can see that it doesn't enter my score at the end. So what I can do is I can go to the end of this program and I can print your score is, followed by the score here. Okay, so that will then output the final score. See that? Okay, let's just go through. So your final score is 1. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this short program, and have a go yourself at making this short math quiz, and I will see you again later.